Our next story is actually going to be the beginning of our Cryptids week. We're going to do a cryptid story each day this week. We've got some good ones, and this one is actually what inspired the Cryptid week. When I found out about this one, I thought, okay, I bet you there's some other really cool monsters out there that no one's ever heard of. So in the deepest jungles of Africa, maybe not the jungles, that's a stereotype, but in South Africa, in a jungle, there's a huge cave system. And in this cave system is apparently more riches than you could ever imagine. It's their equivalent of the Lost Dutchman mine, except they know where it's at. They know exactly where it's at. So people have tried going into this cave, and it like smells of sulfur, which probably means there's some sort of gas down there. And it's like apparently bottomless, and it goes all the way out to the ocean, like 60 miles away or something like that. What keeps people away from really getting into those riches is the creature known as the Grootslang. Now, I found this out while I was researching this. Apparently, Grootslang is also a Final Fantasy boss. So, that being said, the Grootslang is also an ancient South African legend of a creature with the head of an elephant and the body of a snake. If you could pick two more ruthless animals to put together, it would be like a hippo and a Tyrannosaurus Rex. So the Grootslang, its origin story, the creation myth, was when the gods were first creating the world, they created the Grootslang, and it was the most cunning, evil, intelligent creature on the planet. And the gods realized, whoa, we probably messed up on this one, because it's completely just overrunning the planet. So the gods gathered up all the Grootslangs and chopped them in half and made one half the elephant and one half the snake. But in that purge, one Grootslang hid from the gods and didn't get cut in half, and that's where all the other Grootslangs have come from. So this isn't a singular immortal creature. It can breed, I'm assuming, asexually. I don't really know how, but it has sex with itself. It's a hermaphrodite, maybe. So the Grootslang that you may see today isn't necessarily the one that was created 1 million years ago. And people still say they see it today. It's a creature that people in this area have said, oh, no, don't go in that cave. There's the Grootslang in there. Which, for one thing, could be a cover story, but the story's lasted for hundreds and hundreds of years. It's their version of Bigfoot. But Bigfoot to us is a big hairy monkey that will either beat your brains in or walk blurrily out of frame. The Grootslang is an evil god creature. Like the power scale between the two, they're considered the same as far as people have sightings of them and they find broken stuff and all of that. And detractors go, oh, Bigfoot's just a bear. And detractors in South Africa goes, oh, no, that was just a regular elephant with a 60-foot long, slender, slimy body. But they're both on the same level of people believe in them. This isn't a myth. They actually believe the Grootslang exists today. But the power level between the two is off the charts. I would rather fight 5 Bigfoot than 1 Grootslang. I'd rather fight 10 Bigfoots than 1 Grootslang. And here's why. The way that the Grootslang is described is it's super intelligent. And, the thing is, too, is that a lot of the comparisons with the reptile body, the intelligence, it also not necessarily lives in that cave because there was riches in there. It got gold and brought it there. So it's more on the line of a European dragon. A Bigfoot is just a smart monkey. Like a Stone Age level intelligence monkey. The Grootslang is acquiring wealth and hiding it, and then trampling anyone who comes near it. So I'd much rather fight a bunch of Bigfoot people. Even though I'd be outnumbered, like physically, I feel like I could home alone them. I could out-tactic them. I could have like pots of boiling water above their head, and I could have a roller skate that has like a tack in it, so when they step on it, they're like, I guess you don't need both. I guess the tack or the roller skate trip goes either way. But the Grootslang, how are you going to defend yourself against it? It's an elephant-sized snake that's hyper-intelligent. I do have to say, I always find it weird when we find cultural contamination in myths when there was no cultural contamination. So you have the story of the reptilian dragons in Europe who hoard gold, and they're just like these massive beasts that live in mountains and cave systems and things like that. And then we travel, 1,000 miles south before the British ever got into South Africa, and you have the story of the Grootslang, this giant reptilian-like creature that hoards wealth and lives in a massive cave system. I always think that's fascinating, because technically there shouldn't be any cross-contamination. You could argue that when the British came down, the Grootslang myth evolved a bit, but I couldn't find any sourcing on that. But yes, was there at some point giant reptiles that were hoarding gold? I mean, probably not. But I just find it interesting. I find it interesting that dragon mythology is pretty much all over the planet. And I said before in a previous episode, reptilians being part of creation myths are all over the planet. You have it in the Middle East creation stories. You have it in the Native American creation stories. You have it now in the South African creation stories, where the reptile is this horrible, evil being that the gods have to intervene. What's the difference between the Grootslang and the Serpent in the Garden of Eden? I don't know. Why does it all come from one sort of cultural pot? I don't know. I do know that I would never want to meet a Grootslang. I would want to see one through binoculars. I think that would be awesome. I think that would be great. But I wouldn't want to be walking through the... Oh, and I wanted to say this too. You know, looking into the story, I started to think, okay, so imagine you're walking through the forest, just a regular forest, and you see a little girl in a white dress with like black hair, like Samara, standing with her head leaning against a tree. You're in the middle of nowhere, and she's like, la, 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 la. You're going to be upset, to say the least. You're going to not have a good time. But I know that I'm in a forest in Michigan or wherever, and I can turn around and walk out, and a couple squirrels are going to scatter in each direction, and then I finally get in my car and drive away. And then she's in the back seat. Now, let's flip that. Let's say that you're in a jungle in Africa, and there's like jaguars walking around, you got big old boas, you got all sorts of parasites and fire ants and all sorts of horrible things that are naturally there, that exist. You turn a corner, and next to a giant vine is a little girl wearing a white dress with black hair going, la, 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 la. I think a ghost in the outdoors is totally terrifying to me. I think more so than a ghost in a house, because I don't like the outdoors anyways. But a ghost in the outdoors of an environment I'm familiar with is less terrifying than a ghost girl deep in some sort of hot, humid jungle. But technically, they should exist in both biomes. That's scary. I'd much rather meet Samara in Yellowstone than Samara. Well, Samara on the Serengeti would probably be pretty easy, because you'd see her like 50 miles away. Still be creepy though. And as you went to run, you'd get in your car, you turn it on, and there'd be a lion and the ghost girl in your back seat. I'm not doing it. Sorry, South Africa. I'm not visiting you. I actually have no listeners in Africa. Maybe this episode will turn that around. That was a clip from our daily podcast, Dead Rabbit Radio. Dead Rabbit Radio is available anywhere that you listen to podcasts. It's daily paranormal, conspiracy, and true crime news. If you want to hear the full episode that this clip came from, check the link below. Please like and subscribe. And hit that little bell, too. That does some magical stuff. Thanks, guys.